Excellent. So we'll get to you in this session probably in the second half, probably around 35 minutes or so into the session.
Sounds good. Good to see you.
All right, good to see you. Thank you. Okay, I think we've got a pretty good start here. Should we get started, Renaissance?
Yeah, I think we can get started.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Mark Werwath. I'm the director of the MEM program here at Northwestern University. This session is specifically intended and targeting newly admitted students, well, from what we call round two. So round two is the second of 3 rounds. We're closing out our admission season very shortly. So if you know anybody in the system that wants to still attend the program, make sure they get their deposit in, make sure they complete their interviews, because we are quickly closing out our recruiting season and admission season for the year. The intention here is to try to answer many of your questions, some of the more common questions that we've seen in the past, give you a little bit more detail as what you can expect as you approach the fall quarter, the things you need to be thinking about, and also ways you can prepare so that you come into the program as robustly as you can, and have as good an experience as is humanly possible. I'll be giving you some of my hints and some of my suggestions, things that I've seen other students do in the past. I've been doing this for about a dozen years as the program director, so I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of success. I've seen a lot of formulas for success. So there's no one specific formula, but I'll try to share the things that have worked before. So let's get started. Our program staff, as you know, Renaissance and Jamel, you've been dealing largely with Jamel up until now. She's the admission process person. She'll be fading into the sunset and handing it over to Renaissance, who will be taking it over from here. She is your associate director. Please pay very close attention to any emails or announcements that she sends out, or her staff, because frankly, she is the not just the eyes and ears, but she's the mechanism behind the entire program. She's what keeps this program on the rails and keeps you on the rails on a path towards success. So Renaissance, we're very happy to have you. We share Renaissance with MBAI. She's also on this call, so she can maybe answer questions if you need them. Her staff includes Karen and Daxon. So they're going to be getting into more of the minutia of scheduling and registration and matriculation. A lot of the topics that you will, of course, need to support, but will keep you on track for your eventual graduation, whether it's May of 26 or December of 26. My background, again, 30 years of engineering and new product development experience. I spent a lot of time in R&D, mostly on the hardware and software side and system side of Motorola, Northrop Grumman, and companies like WMS Gaming, all based here in the Chicago land area. But I can count at least 3 or 4 different industries that I worked in. My main responsibility today, of course, is to bring in only the best students. So we're trying, we have been very selective in the past. We've been very selective again this year, but also to keep the curriculum current and relevant, to help network students to the community of seasoned professionals, to bring in some of the best faculty we can, one of which is with us today, Professor Kevin Murnane. Kevin will be talking to us at the very end. He's a Kellogg executive education instructor and faculty. He's been with MEM, I think, at least the last 3 or 4 years. He teaches mostly leadership and organizational behavior. So he'll be coming to you from that perspective. And I'm sure as a core class, you're going to enjoy Professor Murnane when it becomes your turn to take him, right? Ultimately, my job and Kevin's job, and frankly, all of the faculty's job, is to help develop you as a technology and engineering leader. So making you uncomfortable, having you deal with uncomfortable situations, the people side, the human side, how you work with systems from not just the technical perspective, but what we call the socio-technical perspective, right? Integrating people with technology with process, right? So we've talked in the past about why pursue at Northwestern, why MEM here, right? We are actually the #3 program in industrial engineering across the country. We take this whole brain approach, which is left brain, right brain, which is the qualitative mixed with the quantitative, and understanding those linkages between them. We integrate engineering, technology, and business within a single department called Industrial Engineering and Management Science. So that's what we are. We have fundamentally data science as kind of a foundation to everything we do. So that's one of our biases. The other bias that I see McCormick has that I also have is one towards product development. And so if you have a PD orientation, a PD background, or a PD interest, you're in the right place. This is the place to be. We have excellent collaboration with Kellogg. As you can see, we have one of Kellogg's faculty. We have several Kellogg alum and faculty on our faculty, but also as graduates go, they tend to work with Kellogg in many ways, taking courses with them or acting as a TA or grader. The Farley Center for Entrepreneurship, we have another 12 or so professional master's programs similar to MEM, but having a different perspective, a different slant, a different department underneath them. MSIT is perhaps one of the closest to MEM and one of the oldest as well, mostly a part-time program, MSIT, MSLDS, sorry, and also MEM all share the same facilities. So you'll probably see students from those programs intermingling with us as we transition from one class to the next, one course class session to the next in any given day. Lastly, we have this thing called the Garage, which is an entrepreneurial incubator specifically for students. It's dedicated space for students, not faculty per se, because they don't teach courses there, but they do have a pretty good staff that's there to facilitate your entrepreneurial journey. So if that's a journey for you, we have the place for you. But beyond the Garage, there's other incubators in Chicago, including 1871, Matter, which is a medical incubator, M-Hub, which is a mechanical incubator, as well as probably 3 or 4 others that I'm missing right now. But, frankly, if the Garage doesn't do it for you, we've got plenty of other options that are less than 30 minutes away from the campus. We are multidisciplinary. You're able to take classes. We probably have one of the most flexible curricula. You can take up to 5 electives, and you can choose from Kellogg, Medill, Farley Center, or Siegel Design Center. Siegel Design has a UI UX orientation, both from a hardware and software perspective. So you can easily take a good number of these up to the limits that, up to the 5-course limit. Kellogg has probably 4 or 5 classes or courses per quarter that they open up to other programs, and you're free to take them on a non-conflict basis. So if it fits your schedule, which it probably will, we offer our classes at night. Kellogg offers most of their courses during the day, as well as many of these other programs offer their courses during the day. So, scheduling conflicts should be mostly minimized. You have the option to complete it in 9 or 15 months, and I'll be meeting with each of you individually as the fall quarter approaches us. I'll meet with you personally, one-on-one, online, via Zoom, probably in the month of July or August. We'll give you a chance to sign up and pick your date and pick your time. At that point, I'll be advising you about what your sequence will look like, what courses you should be thinking about as electives, and what is your typical schedule, whether it's 9 or 15 months. So you need to start thinking, what is your objective? Is your objective to complete as quickly as possible? Is your objective to get as much as you can out of the program, right? As an MEM alum myself, I can tell you I made the mistake of trying to go through it too quickly, being too transactional, not engaging with my fellow students or the faculty or the great research facilities and opportunities that surrounded me. I was tunnel vision. I was focused on my job, and I was a part-time student. And as a result, I think I missed out on quite a bit. So God has given me another chance, if you will, a second bite at the apple, or even a third or fourth bite, maybe. And so I've taken advantage of it in later years, but you may not have that chance. So think seriously about how you want to complete your program and what you want to do beyond the classroom to enhance the program. We do have small class sizes, a small cohort size. We have concentration areas of product management, supply chain analytics, and also project and process management. So I need you to think about which of those areas are of most interest to you, whether you want to constantly have a concentration or not, right? and come prepared in July or August with that discussion in mind. So I will say right now, many opportunities seem to exist in supply chain and operations. There's a lot of students getting offers, sometimes multiple offers. And some of the other areas like product management, not so much, at least not at this moment, at this point in economic history. So what will it look like in a year? Your guess is as good as mine, but I can tell you right now, supply chain and operations, which makes sense, right? This country is rebuilding its supply chains from the COVID disaster we had 2 or 3 years ago. Those supply chains have not been fully restored. And as we reindustrialize, we're going to need more operations people. So it makes sense that there's demand on both of those. And oh, by the way, there isn't that big of a supply. I don't think too many MBA programs or even MEM programs focus in that area. We do have the ability to help you build your entrepreneurial skills. Most students take advantage of it, not immediately upon graduation, but they'll use those skills down the road later in their career. And that's one of the challenges we have in MEM, right? We're here to establish skill sets that you're going to need, not for next year or the year after, or even the next 3 years. It could be 5, 7, 10, or 15 years into the future, right? So that's part of what we're trying to inculcate into you is an orientation and understanding of skills that might not be fully exercised for more than a decade. Lastly, I'm here to network you to help you understand who the leaders in technology and business are, not just in Chicago, but as much as we can nationwide. We have great faculty that come from that industry. They're almost all active practitioners, as well as guest speakers. Almost every class has at least a couple of guest speakers from industry, and you can network with them very easily. We have about 17,000 alum at Northwestern across the 160 countries around the world. One thing I've noticed with MEM and also Northwestern as a whole is that there's a lot of, well, hold on a second here. There's a lot of loyalty. There's a lot of willingness to engage with, from one alum to the next. So when you knock on an alum's door at Northwestern, you'll probably get a response, and you'll probably get a positive response. So not true in other schools, not certainly public universities, not so much. I see a higher, I'm sure Kevin has a name for this, allegiance factor, right? Higher allegiance factor amongst private schools. Oftentimes, the smaller the private school, the higher the allegiance factor. So we have student competitions, we have industry night, we have networking events. So these are all ways that we intentionally try to connect you with alumni and connect you with the industry partners so that you have as many opportunities as possible to find that right job, the job that fits your needs, right? We are mostly full-time students at this point. Our origins are part-time. We were mostly a part-time program 15 years ago. We do have a beautiful campus. I think you'll find being along Lake Michigan has its advantages, and one of them is it's cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter. So besides that, there's just natural beauty. There are pictures we have where you can see literally the city of Chicago on a clear day right here from campus. We are less than about 5 or 6 miles from Chicago, and probably 11 miles to the center of the city of Chicago. So unlike many other campuses that are more remote, we are very accessible to the city and all the opportunities that come with it. Lower cost of living, and of course, we have a manufacturing, logistics, food tech, med tech companies, and fintech as well, all located here within the Chicagoland area. What we're trying to do is help develop you as a T-shaped or pie-shaped engineer. So you come to us with a vertical expertise, mechanical, electrical, industrial, right? Whatever it happens to be. Our job is not to necessarily make your expertise that significantly deeper as much as it is to make it more horizontal. So we want you to have that ability to look across the disciplines into the business realm, understand the business terminology and fundamentals, to converse with your business counterparts in a way that you've gained their respect, as well as you can understand what they're talking about, and they can earn your respect in response. So when we mean pie-shaped, some people will take the opportunity to start to develop a second vertical. So if you come to us with a mechanical background, you might want to indulge in a data science type second vertical, right? Start building, if you will, up that second muscle that you can then use in the marketplace to market yourself and to market your newly found skills. Let's go on. Some key statistics. We have 24 courses offered by MEM, which is probably more than almost any other MEM program or master's program within McCormick. As a result, you'll see guest students from other programs take our courses, including Kellogg students. It seems ironic that we have MEM students constantly asking, can I take a Kellogg course and what can I take over there? Ironically, we have some of their students wanting to take our courses, and that's because we offer some unique topics that are typically not offered in a general MBA, right? So 7 of your 24 are core classes. We will help select them for you in terms of what the timing will be. We will put you in a track, and that track will determine what core courses you take in what sequence and in what quarter. The other 5 are up to you, and we will discuss over the summer which ones make the most sense for you. But you can take, again, Kellogg Newvention courses. Newvention is entrepreneurship with a vertical orientation. So we have a Newvention Medical, we have a Newvention Media, we have a Newvention Energy. My bias is towards energy. I teach the course, right? So yes, we have a second version of it. It's taught by, guess what? An MEM alum, Ian Weiss, who's also on MEM faculty. So MEM has a great influence on the energy course. So we do have that energy bias. I personally think there's a lot of opportunities in the energy space that you guys should seriously consider. Small class sizes, around 30 students. Electives are often smaller still. We have some courses that have a hybrid option, but they're very limited, and it's usually 1 per quarter. So that's going to be a little bit different from previous years where we had multiple courses that are offered hybrid. This year, this coming year will only be 1 course per quarter. What else can I say? Of the 16, we have of the 25 MEM professors, 16 are adjuncts, which means that they're practitioners working in the field during the day and then coming to teach at night. The other 9 are either full-time clinical or research faculty, and I would say the majority are clinical faculty like myself, which means we don't come from a research background, we come from a practitioner background, okay? And of course, 5 of our faculty are alum of the program. That's, I think, a testament to how, first of all, how mature our program is, which is 45 years old. So we've got folks that have graduated 20 plus years ago that are giving back to the program, and they're volunteering and being basically employed as adjunct faculty because of the tremendous industry skills that they bring, and of course the industry orientation they bring. The majority of the faculty are degreed engineers or math majors, right? People always ask about outcomes. We have solid outcome data from 23, not so solid from 24 and beyond. But what I can tell you is that, within a 3-month window of graduation, 93% were gainfully employed, right? Most found jobs in the location and industry of their choice. These are the titles that they had. And this is a snapshot of the class that exited from 2023. Typical company names, both for full-time and internships. You can see here, one name that seems a little bit absent is Tesla. Tesla hires a lot of our interns. I'd say on average, maybe 2 to 4 interns per cycle, per year. So that, and the other one is SAI APS. This is a company that does power management systems for data centers. They're located in the Chicago area. They too have hired easily permanent, full-time hires, 4 to 5 alum per year. Okay, so let's do a quick pivot to course planning and academics. We define part-time study as 1 or 2 classes a quarter, full-time is 3 or 4. What that means is you have the option to graduate in 9 or 15 months. Every F1 student, by definition from the State Department, must be a full-time student during their entire career. There is an exception to that, right? The exception is your final quarter. So let's say your final quarter is fall of 2026. Okay. Guess what? You can take a reduced load, maybe 1 or 2 classes if that's all you need to graduate, but you must graduate at the end of fall as far as the State Department's concerned. So in other words, you are allowed to have a reduced course load, but only in your final quarter. Okay. Summer internships are encouraged. They're not guaranteed and they're not required, but they are encouraged by the program. for those that are on the 15-month program of study. So the advantage of the 15 months is that you can, in most cases, pick up some CPT and internship time. I've seen students who had multiple internships in the same summer. Don't ask me how they do it. They negotiate. Obviously, after they take my negotiations class, they feel empowered and they go in and they say, well, can we spend 6 weeks in one internship, maybe 6 weeks in another? But it can be done. So again, the 9-month versus the 15-month option. I think you can see here that in the 9-month option, you basically are taking 4 courses per quarter for 3 quarters in a row. This is the most time efficient and cost efficient way to go. You can save some money, but at the same time, you're not necessarily gaining all of the, I guess, benefits of being on campus. You'll be very focused on your studies and very focused on earning that degree. The 15-month program gives you the internship, but also gives you the ability to maybe do some research or other opportunities such as clubs, seminars, et cetera, other activities. And we will assign each of you to a track depending on whether you prefer the 9 or 15-month option, okay? These are the core courses. I think we've covered this in the past. All I'll say is 402 is something you'll probably take in the fall, and we're preparing you for 407 with your probability and statistics course this summer. And that summer course will probably start by the 3rd week of June. So start thinking about that and keeping an eye open for that. It'll take probably 1 night a week. It'll be online and it'll be free of charge. The 402 class is where you're going to be formed into teams to compete with each other, running businesses in a simulated environment. So if you've heard of StratSim, this is StratSim embodied in an auto industry example and simulation. These are the advanced engineering methods requirements. This is the electives, and there's many more than what you see on this page. This is simply a sample of the things you can take. We do require 2 AEM courses and 3 electives. You can take more than 5. However, as far as the State Department is concerned, for F1 students, you can only do this in your final quarter. So you cannot add additional quarters and take additional courses. As far as the State Department is concerned, your final quarter is when you take your 12th class. What do tracks look like? On the sample 9-month option, we'll have you take 402 and 405, for example, in the fall, 424 and 403 in the winter, 437 and 404, and maybe 407 in the spring. It'll be different, almost student by student, right? Depending on whether you're in the 9-month or 15-month option. We will try to give you at least 1, if not 2 electives that you can choose every quarter. But recognize when you're on the 9-month option, scheduling is tight. So you'll have to work with us on that. Okay, for those who have an analytics orientation, right? These are the courses, the content, the topics that I would think that you might want to consider. If you have an interest in managerial analytics, for example, SQL, R, and Python would probably be required. So to the extent you can, take these topics online. Coursera is a great resource. We use DataCamp here. We can try to get you access to DataCamp, but in any case, take these courses ideally before the fall. If you can take them between now and September, that would be probably ideal. The other McCormick course programs and master's level professional studies are shown here. MLDS is machine learning and data science. It's a full-time daytime program, very competitive, very mathematically intensive. Biotech, EDI, master's in product development, robotics, MPM, MSES, MSIT. These are all programs taught out of the McCormick School. And MSIT and LDS are actually taught in the same building that you're going to be in. So you'll meet these folks, probably get to know them as well. There are some joint programs with Kellogg. For example, the MEM program, which is a dual degree, and MBAI, which is a single degree, but has artificial intelligence components built in. You have the ability to pursue a minor within your 12-course sequence. A minor typically requires that you complete 3 credits or 3 courses of content. If you dedicate your 3 free electives, in the area of entrepreneurship, cybersecurity, scientific computing, or synthetic biology. You can achieve a minor in any of these four, but you have to schedule them carefully, and you should let me know during our curriculum discussion this summer, okay, starting in July. Just be aware that there probably is a application process for some of these minors, and there's also scheduling constraints. So please think about this and work on this over the summer. Some pre-orientation activities, right? Again, I mentioned that I do have a video out there in terms of advice to incoming students. This link will take you there. You can find it on the Northwestern MEM YouTube channel. It's a relatively new video, probably in the last couple months. One thing I do recommend that you all do is update your LinkedIn profile before you get here, as well as your resumes. We will always use your LinkedIn profile as a reference point in terms of your experience, your background, and when people ask for recommendations, it's going to be largely based on what we see in your LinkedIn profile. Start your job hunt before you get here. Do not wait until September. Do not wait until December. Start now. And start now by that I mean exercise the contacts and the networks you have, especially those that have a U.S. base, right? Because those people might very well give you linkages to resources and opportunities that you might otherwise miss, right? Get yourself organized, right? Get a solid email platform, calendar platform, whatever automation you can put in place. Email is our principal way of interacting with you as a student. It will be attached to your Canvas site. It'll be attached to groups and things that Renaissance will use to communicate with you. So be solid on email and plan on checking it at least twice a day if you want to stay up on opportunities. Start with a project in mind, right? So if you have a project in mind, whether it's entrepreneurship or research, come to us with that project. Come to us even in July to talk about the curriculum and how that can support your project. Frankly, everything you learn in the program can be applied to your project. And at the end of the program, you will have an artifact that you can point to with regards to jobs and opportunities. The Canvas site, right, is where almost all the information about courses, et cetera, will be posted. We have our statistics course. You'll get to know Canvas through that. We have resource centers for MEM students to complete pre-orientation assignments, right? So information about the program, registration, policies, procedures are all located there. And as well, we talked about the advising session with me, right? We do have an orientation coming up in September, so put this on your calendars. It's going to be, I think, 2 full days, the 11th and 12th of September. You will probably also have one with the Office of International Student Services, OISS, probably in the same time frame or at least the same week. You'll hear from the assistant dean. You'll complete a leadership workshop. You'll meet members of the SAB, and you'll attend the new student reception, which probably will include some alumni as well. Some important dates, right? The statistics course starts remotely on June 23rd, so please mark this down. If you need to defer until the fall of 26, we can accept a deferral up until August 1st, okay? But not thereafter. We have a new student orientation on the 11th and 12th. You'll be meeting with me in July and August for curriculum planning. Your fall classes will start September 15th, which I believe is a Monday. Outside the classroom, there are some ways to earn some money, right? TA, grader, VCM opportunities at McCormick, Farley, Medill, or Kellogg. Some of the corporate clients have projects. Some of them have pay associated with them. You'll be checking with me and also checking with Mark Johnson, who's our EIR, and he'll be collecting those opportunities for you. We just inventoried the opportunities from this last year. We had about 6 of them over the last 3 quarters. You can also get basic jobs, hourly paying jobs, the library, the laboratories, the gym, the pool, etc. If you want to work in research, right, check out the research laboratories and their postings across the campus, across McCormick in the month of July and August. That seems to be when most of those hires are happening, okay? In terms of career resources, we have engineering career development, we have NCA. These are 2 very different resources for you. At ECD focuses on engineering jobs, NCA on consulting jobs, right? They will do resume reviews, advising sessions, career fairs, all sorts of seminars and workshops. They'll also have company days where a company will come into the campus, set up a table, and you'll be able to meet with them face to face. In parallel, MEM will have its own events, including things that we call office hours, right? So we will open up an office, bring in an alum, and you'll be able to book some time to talk to that alum about their company and about job opportunities there. Lots of student clubs, right? MEM runs 3 of them: product management, project management, and energy. But there's many, many other clubs, upwards of 300. There's a whole website on this, which is what this link is for. Everything from cooking to theater to solar car, if you want to build a car, electric car. I think we even have a rocket club. So there's a lot of things you can do in terms of clubs, and a lot of ways to show your leadership, right? Again, SAB, PDMA, PMI, and COSI. There's all sorts of ways for you to plug in. For you logistics people, supply chain people, the NU Transportation Center is a great way to link up. Workshops, industry company visits, including Chicago Tube and Iron, Masonite, Motorola Mobility, Motorola Solutions, companies like Invenergy, right, or S&C Electric. So lots of, we arrange for at least 1 or 2 per quarter. Incubators like 1871, ISTP, MHub, et cetera, they're all available to you as well. Student projects, yes, we've got lots of them. Hopefully you'll be able to either create one or jump on one that Mark Johnson provides. More of that as the quarter commences and as we start to understand what's actually out there. An example is sustainability projects on campus. This was EV charging for our bus service. Designing that, implementing that, and putting together the systems was the key to that project. We have a lot of facilities for you for study, for group work, and in the lower right, you can see a shop. That shop is located in the Ford building. You'll see that during orientation. It is uniquely set aside for students like yourselves. It is not for, it is for students and students alone. So if you want to get hands-on, you can do it. You will need to be a little bit trained and certified before they'll let you on a bandsaw, for example. But our job is to keep you safe, but also to give you access to the equipment you might need for your projects. Again, networking events. This is our industry night example from a couple of years ago. Bring in CEOs, CTOs, alum, people from different industries. We tend to rotate it. I think we already have our date set aside for Industry Night 2026. It'll be towards the end of February. It'll be at the Norris Center, and we'll have, I'm sure, a very good speaker for you. So ways to stay connected. Here's a list of MEM alum that you can access through LinkedIn. So please join our LinkedIn page. Sneha Agarwal is working at Baxter. Iqbal has his own company called Serence. Julian Cheng has his own VC. He's a venture capitalist at Gen 1 Capital. And of course, Jennifer and Ian are on our industry advisory board, and Jennifer is actually our chair of the industry advisory board. So how do you stay connected? Please join the LinkedIn group page if you haven't already. Watch our content on YouTube channel. And at this point, I would like to turn it over to Kevin Murnane. So Kevin, if you're still out there.
I am Mark.
All right, I told you about 9:35, so I think we hit it almost on the nose. So I'll let you take it from here. Kevin is one of our illustrious faculty members who teaches leadership and organizational behavior. He also teaches executive education for Kellogg. If you don't know what exec ed is, it's for the more mature students. It's for the students who may already have a bachelor's and master's degree, and they come back for usually limited periods of time, but very intense periods of time. So it could be an 8-hour day multiplied by 2, 3, 4, or 5 days. If you haven't done exec ed, you're missing out. In any case, Kevin, take it from here.
Thank you, Mark. What a great overview. As many times as I've seen this, I always learn more and I hear more about the innovation in the group. So I'd like to just quickly highlight in about 10 minutes, leaving some time for questions, a little bit about my background, a bit about the work at MEM. I'll describe the class that I teach, and I'll land on what Mark was just talking about, which is the opportunities for networking. This is perfect timing because I had a class last night, the leadership class for MEM, and we go from 6 to 9 p.m. My background, as Mark said, is both technical and non-technical. I started off as a statistician. I worked at AC Nielsen before I went to get my MBA at Kellogg. During Kellogg, exactly the same as MEM, the world gets bigger. You learn a lot more about different industries, about different schools. I then moved to New York and worked on Madison Avenue with advertising and international advertising. After 7 years, I moved into industrial psychology and worked for 15 years as a road warrior consultant globally, worked with companies like Toyota, the big three, and developed leaders all over the world, which was very exciting. And that brought me back to both MEM and to Kellogg. I would say the most important thing that I feel about MEM, as I've taught, as Mark said, this is my 4th year, is what an incredible team you have. You've had a lot of great experience with the admissions team. I can't say enough about Mark and Renaissance in terms of being collaborative partners, creative partners. I do run my executive coaching firm, Betrix, and an adjunct to Betrix called Betrix Reset, very appropriate for how companies and leaders are struggling right now. And I coach many engineers, a lot of CEO and COO engineers. And what I notice about Mark and Ren is they're often my coaches. I can't share enough about how many problems I come to them with. And in good collaborative conversations, we figure out a solution. And that happens every quarter. So the class that I teach, and I'll speak to this a little bit, it's called leadership, and it's leadership specifically for engineers. So we cover 3 things, and what we're really doing with leadership, with great technical leaders with backgrounds like yourself, is first and foremost, we're accepting that there's incredible skill in process orientation and technical skills. So imagine all the algorithms and the problems that you faced. What we do is we transform that in leadership from a technical algorithm into a behavioral algorithm. We give you specific experience in 3 areas. First of all, you learn about yourself. Self-awareness is now increasingly seen as the #1 predictive variable that drives success in business, in leadership, especially in technology leadership. And you look at the background of someone like Indira Nooyi or Satya Nadella, and you see how they've built their incredible technical leadership with lots of mentors and lots of self-awareness. We accomplish that in the class where everybody takes a very specific leadership assessment that I use with senior executives. It's pretty amazing what happens when you learn all of this data. What we then do is the second part of leadership is everybody in the class gets put in a team of about 4 to 6 people, and the individuals on the team, everyone in this call who will take our class, you'll start to choose companies that speak to you, that meet some of your needs. But because you'll be on a team, you'll have to negotiate, you'll have to communicate, you'll have to see your own personality in action and choose one company to work on. So we spend a lot of time on real leadership challenges by real companies. That's part of the presentations we had last night, where the students talked a lot about how they chose their company. They completed a very complex SWOT analysis. They began to analyze what are the leadership issues that extend beyond the technical issues. And then the third part of the class is very fun, is where the teams then start to work the equivalent of a business process reengineering model on leadership. So you start with questions, you start with hypotheses, you move into the problem space, you identify a root cause, a behavioral root cause, often a leadership root cause, and then you move into the solution space and create an action plan, often by interviewing and working with real leaders in the company. So it is a very exciting class. To land on what Mark talked about with networking, tomorrow, and this is again the partnership with Mark and with Ren, because I have a lot of leaders that I've worked with from India and China, we're having at 9 a.m. tomorrow, we're having one of the leading Indian politicians, Ghanshyam Tiwari, come and talk about his leadership journey at 9 o'clock a.m. Ghanshyam happened to be a student of mine about 10 years ago, and he sat across a table from me when he was a student at Kellogg, And he talked a lot about how he was a consultant at McKinsey, but he wanted to expand and learn more about himself. That led to a degree at Harvard in the Kennedy School of Public Policy. That led back to a career in service in India, where he is now a leading spokesperson for a political party. So we bring in a lot of people that share your backgrounds, that reflect the journey, that not only reflect where you are now, but where you might want to go. And the last thing I'll say, and then turn it back to Mark for any questions that you have, is there was an Indian business conference at Kellogg last week. Some of our MEM students attended. There will be a China business conference at Kellogg with up to 1,000 people and leaders of companies. Last night, we invited our MEM group to join us, as well as I'll be one of the facilitators and be involved with the conference. So this whole flow of where you are now, coming through the MEM program, I would say what I've noticed is that it is a very powerful place to both learn and pause and be challenged. You learn from the technical skills that brought you here, but all of a sudden the world gets much bigger. Northwestern creates a lot of opportunities for you. As Mark said, there are TA opportunities at Kellogg. I have, I think, 3 of our students now working at Kellogg as TAs for key professors. And the networking among yourselves and among the whole Northwestern community will give you an amazing set of opportunities. So, Mark, I just wanted to provide a quick overview and then see if there's any questions or comments from you, from Ren, or from any of the students.
Any questions for Kevin?
No limits. Anything you want to ask?
While we're waiting for the students, I guess I'll say that I was reflecting on leadership. I guess my own personal journey with leadership. The term leadership has always frustrated me because I grew up as an engineer and with the mathematics of engineering, and somehow leadership didn't fit into that model for me. And I always underestimated really the role of leadership. But as I get older, I guess I'm starting to realize just how important leadership is, especially in this culture, the American culture, where the leader and the company become almost equated with each other, right? So if I think of Microsoft, I can't stop but think about Bill Gates, right? If I think about Apple, I can't help but think about Steve Jobs and later Tim Cook, and just the radical differences between Steve Jobs and Tim Cook, and yet how Apple has evolved as a result of those 2 leaders. Or conversely, on the negative side, right? You know, companies like Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes, right? And you can't think of one without the other. And in many ways, in the American mind, at least, we equate these 2 things. And yet we all know that to have a successful company requires a successful team. And that team has to have complementary skills, has to have a sense of cohesion, has to have a sense of mission, right? In terms of what they're trying to do and how they're going to get there, right? All successful teams generally have those things. But yet, in the American mindset, it's like the company and the leader are melded as one. Tesla and Elon Musk. The fate of Tesla seems to be hanging, in many cases, by a thread on what Elon Musk says, does, is, thinks, believes. Even his mannerisms are impacting the fate of Tesla, SpaceX, and all of the subordinate companies. Thoughts,
Mark, that's so powerful, and that's exactly where we start. Mark and I are both fans of Peter Drucker, and when we step back and we look at the difference between management and leadership, we immediately start to make it personal, with management being doing things right, which engineers are terrific at, statisticians are terrific at, building specific processes. I had the benefit of working with Toyota, and the Toyota production system was and is masterful around getting the process right and doing things right. Where leadership deviates, and this is where it becomes both personal and critical. I love the examples you used, Mark, and we're constantly using real examples in class, is leaders step back, they observe themselves, they know themselves so they can do the right things. They choose the right things, often of a complex array of choices, And then they have to learn how to communicate those choices, build change management in those choices, keep the right people in those choices, and drive change. It's both art and science at the same time.
And it's funny how we're able to distinguish between companies that succeed because of their CEO and companies that succeed despite their CEO. So I'm thinking of Tesla and SpaceX, common CEO going through the same motions or the same emotions, right? And yet one is, what do they lose? 71% of their net income in one quarter. That's Tesla, right? SpaceX continues to click along in a very methodical way. So.
Well, and Mark and I get to brag about this, is that the very talented SpaceX CEO is a Northwestern industrial engineer, Gwen Shotwell, and there's a lot of online talks that are both from Northwestern and from Kellogg about how she has been very clear about how to build in failure and how to communicate and develop technical solutions when there's no blueprint, and just how she still uses her engineering principles to drive success at SpaceX.
Well, I don't see any questions out there, so maybe I can ask one that's a little bit on the tougher side for both of us. But I mean, this is obviously a difficult time for the economy, a difficult time for geopolitics, a difficult time for the United States, but not necessarily just the United States, but around the world. My observation is that I personally have been through at my advanced age multiple cycles of difficulty from the 60s. 68 was a very difficult year where leaders were literally being shot in the streets. Martin Luther King, for example, and RFK. So we've had some rough times, times when we were being torn apart by the Vietnam War in the 70s, or the oil crisis of the late 70s, or 87, the stock market imploded, right? 2001, right, with the dot-com implosion, right? 2008 with the GFC. So, these things come and go, but what's constant, I guess, or what should be constant, is your investment in yourself, and to recognize that there will be a tomorrow. There always has been a tomorrow, right? And the young people of the world will help shape that tomorrow. And that you guys, your generation, is among that group. So investing in yourself is investing in everyone's future. And that's why I do what I do. And I'm sure that's why Kevin does what he does. We're both investing in the future for our children and grandchildren, right? So is the job market out there tough? Yes, it is, but not consistently, not universally. There are pockets that are still doing quite well and pockets that are not doing well at all. And your choice is to navigate that minefield of sorts, right? To figure out, well, okay, where can I succeed? Where can I be happy and successful? Where can I add the most value? Where will I be able to thrive, not just for a year or two, but hopefully for decades to come? And I think that's both the challenge and the opportunity. I mean, look, AI is bringing opportunities that 5 years ago we couldn't even articulate, we couldn't even discuss. What is a prompt engineer? Well, 5 years ago, people would say, I don't even know what you're talking about. Today, there's literal job openings for prompt engineers, right? Thoughts, Kevin?
I really appreciate what Mark is saying, and on two things. First of all, I think any strategic direction, Mark and I both taught strategy, is you're asking yourself three questions. And it's a great thing to reflect on right now. One is, where are you right now? Applies to yourself as a leader, your own awareness, your own background. Question number two is always, where do you want to go? How do you take, from an engineering perspective, the exact constructs of your strengths, your development areas, your motivations, your needs, your values, and where do you want to take that, and how does that align with business? And then the third question, which Mark and I can help with, and we do help with every day, is how do you get there? So where are you now? Where do you want to go? How do you get there? And I just wanted to share, and Mark knows this and Ren knows this, that next week we're taking our class of 23 students and we're going downtown on Wednesday to combine with a Kellogg class we're going to have about 100 students between the Kellogg class and the MEM class, and we're going to learn about mental health and leadership. We're going to learn about genuine humility. We're going to learn about values-based leadership. So the how do you get there is up to all of us, your instructors, your teachers, your administrators, to create learning experiences that will anticipate the future. We will not be able to ignore mental health issues. We will not be able to ignore these crazy changes that have been happening the last few months. So what we do is we face them. We talk about them. We have deep discussions about them. And in many ways, all of you will learn to listen as if you have the answers, because you will be both technical experts and you're also going to be teachers to the members of your team, especially the older leaders, with your technical skill sets.
A lot of folks, are asking, especially at your age, right? How should I choose my career? How should I choose my path? And the standard answer seems to be, well, just follow your passion and everything will work out. Well, I think that's part of the answer. I'm not sure that's the complete answer. If I'm passionate about fine art and, perhaps pencil drawings or something, that doesn't mean I can make a living at it. And that doesn't mean that I can pay my bills with it. So I think it's a combination of three things, right? What are your true strengths? Both, from a right brain and left brain perspective. What is your passion in terms of what excites you and what animates you, right? But lastly, and I think maybe the most important that we often forget is, what's the perception of the market? Is the market going to value what you're bringing, right? If I'm particularly good at something that the market finds no value in, I'm going to struggle, and I'll struggle for most of my life, I suspect. So I think it's about finding the intersection of those three things. Is that about right, Kevin?
I think you're right on track, Mark. And this is what we cover specifically in the class. It's one of the things that I think excites the students as we work through leadership. It's not about other people's leadership. It's about who you are. And we use two textbooks in the class. One is from our friend and colleague at Kellogg, Carter Cast, a fantastic book about both winning and being challenged by your careers. The book is called The Right Stuff and the Wrong Stuff. And then the second book, very well known, is Grit by Angela Duckworth, right, Mark? How you create perseverance and how you move beyond talent and how do you learn from failure. So I think there's 5 things we cover in the class that help people shape what does passion really mean. And those are different aspects of motivation. And those 5 things are autonomy, which is how much freedom do you require? How much security do you require? And this is part of the assessment you take in the class, which is, what really are your needs? How much power do you need? How much security do you need? How much control do you need? After autonomy, we look deeply at affiliation, one of the classic motivations, which is, do you get energy from working with other people? Do you get energy from sharing your ideas? Is your decision-making process including a lot of outward influence, or are you more of an internal decision maker? And then, of course, a classic thing that determines a successful career is, how much power do you need? One of the real fallacies of leadership is that leaders need power. And we're finding a huge number of current leaders, Jack Dorsey comes to mind, the original founder of Twitter, that actually does not want power. And so we explore the range of how much power individuals need, and based on your need for power. I think something that many on this call will relate to is purpose. What is your real purpose? What do you have a sense of giving away to people that don't and cannot take care of themselves? We have a number of alums that, including alums in India, that have created tremendous not-for-profit organizations, and we're happy to talk about that. And then, the last one is to step back and think about your own learning and your own curiosity and your own sense of what is it gives you joy. And for many of you, for a very long time, you have figured things out. You have mathematically figured things out. You have been interested in developing process, in making things. And so we apply all that to Gestalt. What is a mix of who you are? And one of our last assignments in the class, one of our favorites, is you create a 10-word statement, a value statement of your leadership. Who are you as a leader? It's hard to only do that in 10 words. And during the spring quarter, we all meet in the beautiful Shakespeare Garden, which will be blooming nicely. And every member of the class shares, based on what they've learned, who they are as a leader and how they want to keep learning.
There was one question online. Where can, I guess for Kevin in particular, can you tell us briefly how leadership has evolved pre and post COVID, and what are the aspects that one must consider to stay relevant now?
It's a great question. And I'll say three things. And then, Mark, I want you to build on this. I think first and foremost is deep anxiety and mental health has plummeted post-COVID. And there is no ignoring the data. I will talk about this in the 3-hour lecture next week. We've designed a 10-week class around mental health and leadership, but that's factor number one. Factor number two is that leaders, as a result, are valued for empathy and vulnerability. That's been a significant change since COVID. And I think the third one is the most obvious, which is new skills in dealing with ambiguity and adaptability are required. Those are my top three. Mark, how about you?
No, I think you've got them. I think you've got the right ones. I guess post-COVID, there is a sense of anxiety that I haven't seen in the past. Leaders that can help people look past that anxiety and maybe give them a sense of stability, which is, of course, much more difficult now that we have a much more unstable world. I mean, the world has become much more volatile. So I think having that sense of, hey, we've been through this before, we can get through this again, right? Is what I think leaders need to bring to the party, a sense of vision that, hey, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we will be able to prevail, but we have to stay the course, right? So those are the things that I think is different about leadership today. I think the poor leadership that we see around us, especially in politics, I think is showcasing the need for even more and better leadership than we've had in the past. It's easy to discount leadership and to say, well, engineers can lead themselves. And there's actually a school of thought that says engineers don't need leaders at all. They're all self-directed automatons. They're just literally guiding themselves through a morass of different objectives. And the truth is that might be true singularly, but collectively, leadership is key to make sure that we're all rowing in the same direction. Because otherwise,
it really is key. And I will say from this crowd and myself, we need tools. So we practice a lot of very specific tools that address those three issues. And one of the things Mark knows and Red knows and our students love is we do a plus delta at the end of every class. We use a lot of lean tools that help people transition from technical skills to behavioral skills. And every class we include mindfulness, including mini short meditations. And for those of you from India, I've been very lucky to be a meditator for 30 years, including tools like Vipassana. So we use both technical and non-technical tools to allow you a toolkit to deal with these issues.
So there are some more mechanical questions here, or logistical ones. For example, is there going to be an updated fee structure for MEM? I think we'll be posting that in the next 30 to 45 days for next year. So you can't expect a hike in tuition, but it's usually somewhat modest in the 3 to 4% range. It's possible it'll be less because of the financial situation that a lot of people find themselves in, as well as the economy. Okay, placement rates. We talked about placement rates. The placement process is for you to link up with engineering career development or NCA from almost the very beginning. So from September 1st onward, get yourself on their mailing list, put their calendar into your calendar, understand all the events, and then notate which ones you want to attend and which ones you want to participate in, because you can't do them all and you shouldn't do them all. You should do the ones that make the most sense for you, and recognize that networking is probably going to be the key to your success more than a job fair or more than a career fair, because simply put, a lot of those career fairs are focused on undergrads, and grad students, especially experienced ones, need to be much more subtle and much more deliberate in their job pursuit. And you can't just say, well, I'll show up with my resume in hand and my suit and tie on, and somebody will hand me a job. It doesn't work that way. It does, and even if they do want to talk to you, it might take months before you can close a deal. And also recognize that not only is it a long process, but it's now today a highly competitive one. So I think relationships are still key, perhaps more than ever. And linking through LinkedIn to alumni that are working for that company, what I would call triangulation, right? So even if they're not the hiring manager, link up with those people who are associated with that company, and then maybe they can do an introduction to the hiring manager for you, right? In terms of finances, there are no additional scholarships or financial waivers or funding opportunities for MEM aside from the jobs that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. So on-campus jobs, projects, et cetera, are ways for you to earn money while you're on campus. Otherwise, I highly suggest you come to the program as fully funded as possible. I've seen students show up without a winter coat and without a decent laptop. Now, the laptop you're going to need on day one. The winter coat could wait a little bit, but frankly, without either one, you're not going to have a very good experience here at Northwestern. So come prepared, come financially prepared, right, and fully funded as much as possible, and then treat any kind of job you get perhaps as extraneous, maybe beer money, if you will, or entertainment money, because frankly, there's so much to do in Chicago. You're going to want to have some options when you step out the door. Do we have time for one last question, Jamal or Renaissance, or should we call it a day?
It's up to you. We're over time, and if people can stay for one last question, sure. But we should probably end it after that last question.
Okay. Let's see. When transitioning into office-based roles like supply chain or consulting, and this is for Kevin, I think, how can one lead effectively when they don't have formal authority, especially in cross-functional teams?
Yeah, terrific question. I saw that one. Thank you. I think you lead by practicing. I mean, this goes back not just to organizational theorists, but Aristotle, that if you want to learn how to do something, you practice doing it. So in our class, we have people form teams, learn about themselves, work on real problems. We also, I didn't mention this, Mark, and Mark knows about this, is I'm mentored by a wonderful person we both know, Professor Bill White, and we've now designed 4 different leadership video games that we play in class as a way to actually practice these skills and behaviors. So the way that you learn how to be a leader is you practice being a leader.
So my answer will be a little bit different because I studied some of this in my PhD program as well. But I think largely engineers respect leaders based on what their accomplishments are or have been, what their credibility is in the space, right? And you can earn credibility by having a good knowledge of the context and the situation, being fair to the people in the room, giving them all a voice without necessarily allowing anyone to dominate, right? Giving everyone an equal or fair voice. There's a lot of ways to earn that credibility. And I think leadership in the engineering context can even come from non-engineers. You can have a non-engineer have a lot of credibility because they take the time and energy to invest in the topic, to be up on the current events, to be fair to the people involved, to help in this problem solving process, which, frankly, if you're not very good at problem solving, it's going to be really tough, I think, at least in my context, in my understanding, to be a good engineering leader, because engineers first and foremost solve problems. And if you don't have a good mental model for how to do that, right? If you walk into a room and you're lost as to, wow, we got symptoms over here, we got problem defects over there, we got theories over here. So it's like you have to be able to organize that and say, okay, how can I walk a group through a problem-solving process in a methodical way that's efficient and that actually gets to the root cause, right? Is that fair, Kevin?
That's great, Mark. I love it. It's take the best of what you already know and apply it to the very changing circumstances. So it's layering on. I think, and I see this at Kellogg all the time. I always say that the best, most successful Kellogg MBAs have an engineering background because of what you just said: organization, process, problem solving.
And simply come in prepared. I mean, I remember my first day on the job on almost every new job I've ever had. And the key to my success has always been to come to that first day prepared. I've literally been put on the spot, day one, hour one, in front of a group of people, right? And they want to hear from me because I'm the new kid on the block, even if I'm a new director or a new vice president or a new senior director, whatever my title is. And if I don't have a meaningful observation or comment, I'll be easily and quickly dismissed. It's just like, oh, well, there's one more layer between us and the CEO, right?
Right. And I love, and this relates to the question that just showed up around how does MEM and how does Kellogg and how does education stay right on top of the current trends? I think we spend a lot of time in our leadership class on self-awareness, listening, we get really precise about the 8 different types of listening and very precise around exactly how do you communicate between engineers, how do you communicate to non-engineers, how do you then communicate to executives? And one of our guest speakers, wonderful speaker, Julianne Carlin, that's one of our favorites each quarter, created the Fleet program at Amazon. So she specifically talks about how do you implement a huge project at Amazon by varying your communication strategy.
I think we're out of time at this point. I do acknowledge there's other questions we didn't get to, but all of you will be invited and in many cases required to take Kevin's classes and some of my classes. So there's plenty of time to cover these topics. I do want to thank you all for your time today and your attention. Again, I want to remind you, if you see correspondence from Jamel, or in this case, Renaissance, please pay close attention, follow the directions. This is the key to your success and to lower blood pressure for all of us. So with that, I want to thank you all. Renaissance, anything I missed?
Nope, that was everything. It was amazing. Thank you so much, Kevin. It's so great when you can join us on this.
I really appreciate it. Please follow up with me. Ren and Mark can always find me. I'm easy to track down if you'd like to continue the conversation on any of these issues.
And some of these topics are covered on our YouTube video, so please go to that channel and check some of those out so we can pick up the discussion from that point forward. With that, I want to thank you. We'll be seeing you over the summer, and I hope to see you in person this fall. Thanks again. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.